And we're live. Welcome in to another episode of the Bears win a football game. First time in consecutive weeks. That's pretty cool, huh?
It is. I asked a question. So I'm a big fan of the movie Major League, right?
Yeah, sure. Me too.
So Major League, they to my mind, they set the precedent for what a winning streak is. It's not two in a row.
No, it's got to be three.
It's got to be
Ano-
three.
Another game, and it's a winning streak.
So like everyone talking about it's a winning streak. They finally got a winning streak. So like the open to the article for this Bear and Balance podcast, my open, I actually quote that quote in there because one more is the actual winning streak, and that's going to be the Browns game next Sunday if they pull it off.
It's a great movie, obviously, and I think
Yeah,
it kind of holds up, right? There's still maybe some problematic parts in it, but like for the most part, it holds
usually,
up.
yeah. It's really something.
Comedies
Yeah,
comedies don't generally hold up ever. Like
yeah,
but this is like a comedy sports movie and
yeah.
there's still a lot of good stuff in it. But I love you can tell a lot about how a baseball season is going to go by the first at bat. And I always thought about using that in a football season too, like which not would not have been made for a great article this
No.
year since the Bears started off so bad. But yeah, there's some funny stuff in that movie that I think you could be I have felt like Bob Euchre a few times, especially on the other show where we drink whiskey and drinking bourbon became the thing that we did early on when the Bears lost,
Yeah.
and then it just became a thing where I was just drinking it every week because of the
That's
losing
all they
streak.
did. Yeah, that's all they would do
So
for you.
so it is like just turned into be like, I guess this is what I do now. I just drink
Yeah.
bourbon on this show, and then people kind of seem to get into that. So, yeah, a lot of talk about. You just want to jump in and do it
Let's
on the
do it.
podcast.
Let's do it.
All right, let's hit this thing up. Welcome to Bear and Balance. I'm Jeff Berckes, a writer for Windy City Gridiron, and I'm joined by the editor of that fine website, Lester A. Wiltfong Jr. Lester, the Bears win back-to-back victories. One more, it's a winning streak. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of our crew picked the Bears to pull off the upset, but there were some national pundits that kind of felt the Bears had a chance. And I mean, if you look at the way the Bears have been playing, I mean, yeah, of course they had a chance. I thought it'd be a close game, but yeah, I'm okay with it. I mean, unlike some fans that are hoping for draft pick, I'm cheering for my team to win each week, and I thought that was a good win for the franchise.
Well, I'm certainly hoping for a draft pick, but for a different draft pick. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. I got a little bit going on there, and yeah, I didn't necessarily have the Bears pulling off that victory, but I did have some DJ Moore prop bets, and two of them hit. But I could have gone for like one more catch, one more catch for like 5 or 6 yards, and I would have cashed them all. But we don't start with receivers or quarterbacks on this show. We start in the trenches. So trench tribute. Let's start off with that. Who did you have that you wanted to talk about today?
I figure I'll lead the layup for you, and I'm going to go a little unconventional here. And he only played 18 snaps, but Mercedes Lewis,
Okay.
who is essentially your sixth O lineman. We had a chat over the weekend with Taylor Dow. She was asking how come the Bears don't pull out the sixth O lineman very often, and I think it was Bill Zimmerman mentioned, hey, that's Lewis, and I'm like, that is Lewis. That's his role in the team, and he only played 18 snaps, but when he was in there, his run blocking like always is good. He's good in pass pro. And this week he had a nice little 4-yard catch and run from a flip by Justin Fields. So I got to hand it to Mercedes Lewis, the Bears tight end / six O lineman.
Did not necessarily look fleet of foot with the ball
No,
in his hand. A little bit of a rumbler, right? It was a run that I think Keith Trailer would be proud of. I mean, he has been faster in his career. I'll
yeah,
just put it that way. But he is definitely playing a nice role on this team, and yeah, a little bit outside the box. I like that, but on the border of the box, right? I guess
border of the box.
would,
Yeah.
would be technically true. I don't. Who's your layup?
I thought she would probably go with Sweat.
Okay. Okay. So yes, I
That's
had
my
two guys
guess.
written down. Montez Sweat was one of them. I was thinking about Montez Sweat's year, right? So you start off the year on the Commanders, and you're having a pretty good year, and then all of a sudden the trade deadline comes up, and you think you're going to go home, Like, you think you're going to get traded to your hometown team, the Falcons. They've already got like a contract established of what they're going to give you. Like, you're pretty excited, right? And then Ryan Poles comes over the top. Chicago gets him, and like his initial reaction was a little disappointment, right?
Yes.
Like he was a
Yeah.
little disappointed because I think he was really excited to go home and play for the Falcons. Poles gets the job done, gets a contract extension. Obviously, that's going to make anybody happy when you have life changing money that you sign your name to. And then he comes in and really takes this defense to the level that we've seen here over the last few weeks. And I went back and I was like, the Commanders are having a bad year. Like they're not a very good football team. They've only won 4 games. The Bears not really having a very good year either. They've only won 5 games. What about Montez Sweat? Like what's his record this year? And he has been a part of 6 victories. His record
Oh,
is 6-7. So he's doing better than either team. And you look at the Bears record before the trade and the Commanders record after the trade, and it's atrocious. So I feel like Montez Sweat might be like one of the best players in the league if you look at it that way. Like he is elevating
whoa,
these
whoa,
bad
whoa!
teams.
Settle down there. There's some analytic guys out there that really think the
I,
Bears trade was bad.
hey, this
Plus,
is
they
this is
they double
analytics,
down.
right?
Yeah.
These are
Yes.
numbers. These
Exactly.
are numbers, my friend. So he's worth extra wins above replacement here. I
There
mean,
it
this
is.
is this
Yeah.
is a guy that might be in the defensive player of the year conversation with how big of a positive impact he's had. So I wanted to just throw that out there that like he really has had a pretty good impact on this Bears team, but he leaves the Commanders and they're falling apart.
Yeah. Well, they also traded Chase Young, so that kind of hurt them a little
Well,
bit.
yeah,
But
the
still, yeah,
multifactorial,
yeah.
but I'm just trying to boil it down to make a point that's
Sweat
not
has,
really
yeah, Sweat has been really good. I mean,
he's been great.
I was critical of the trade when it happened too, because at the time, we weren't sure if they were going to get him re-signed because of all the talk about him wanting to go back to Atlanta, play somewhere close to home. So that was on the table. Yeah, sure, the Bears had a franchise tag option they could have done had they not got him signed, but you got another tag you want to do with Jalen Johnson. So at the time, I was critical of the trade because of those reasons. Plus he's 27, which it's not old by any means, but you look at the timeline of the Bears at the time; they were just atrocious. We thought, oh my god, another rebuild for sure is coming. The roster hasn't come together yet, but he's kind of brought the roster together. He is that multiplier that they talked about him being. The whole defense has been outstanding since he's been in Chicago.
Absolutely. The other guy I wanted to mention was Darnell Wright. I thought he had a really nice
Yes,
game against the Lions' premier pass rusher, Nathan Hutchinson. Thought he really did a nice job against him in this game. And we talk about him every week, and maybe that's getting old to some people, but that he's a top 10 pick. Like, I mean, this
yeah,
guy's like really good at
he
football,
is.
and he's coming on early in his career. That's incredible. And you've got the t-shirt on
I
for the
got it.
bookend tackles.
Bookends.
Both guys have been playing really
Yeah,
good. Braxton coming back and then playing solid as well. So that's an incredible development for this team, because now you feel going into the future like you don't have to spend a premium pick again to shore up your tackles, because you feel like you've got that figured out.
that was one of the questions this week, last week on our SB Nation Reacts poll, and 78% of Bears fans believe that Braxton Jones is done enough to show he's the left tackle of the future. So all those mock drafts that had the Bears going left tackle, you can throw those out the window. I think Braxton Jones has this locked down. He had, I think, 6 penalties in his first couple games, which is just atrocious. So I know people look at the grades. Pro Football Focus does their jobs on the grades. Those early games really brought his overall grade down. He's been penalized once since he came back from the injury. He hasn't been penalized, I don't think, in the last 3 games. He's playing good football. He's improved in every aspect. So bookend tackles, Jones and Wright. It's
Yeah,
set.
I love it. Let's
Let's get
move
the
on.
shirt from our guys
Yeah, over at 500
at,
level if
at,
you're
at
interested
500
in that.
level.
Yeah. Promo code Gridiron20. Haven't done it in a while.
There,
You know why we haven't done it in a while? Because the
because the
Bears haven't been
Bears
winning
stink.
football games, and
Yes.
it's hard to sell T-shirts when you have a bad football team. So,
Yeah.
if you guys are still interested in those, some of them are still alive. They're fun. All right, we'll hit up Twitter. I'll start off here. Uh, I really like Brian Baldinger. He's got really great Twitter content. If you're not following him on Twitter, you should be. He's at Baldy NFL. And he said, "Hey, at Chicago Bears, at Justin Fields, all I want for Christmas is a pair of Justin Fields orange shoes. They are full of magic dust. Hashtag the Bears, hashtag Baldy's breakdowns." And he showed a little video, and it was that early play with Fields where he basically eludes Hutchinson twice
Yeah.
in the pocket and scrambles out and just kind of takes off. And it's like I don't know, what is it, a 30-yard scramble? I mean, it was just an incredible piece of athleticism. And I think that like he does this so frequently that we need to step back every once in a while and be like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like that for a quarterback, for most quarterbacks, if they could make a play like that, it would be on their like all-time highlight reel. And he's got dozens of them at this point where he's just doing this shifty stuff to really make defenders look silly. And I really liked the way that Baldinger phrased this here was just like he's got magic in those shoes.
It was just such a, I mean, he had like two or three of those where he just kind of was, the pressure was there, got to him, he escaped. And, I mean, that's just who he is. I mean, that's what he does. And, it's going to give the Bears a lot of a big discussion here. I mean, that's obviously what the fans are talking about, Justin Fields, and what's the plan, and it's going to be tough, man. But it's just keep stacking wins. Now they finally stacked one. Let's keep stacking wins and see what happens, and it'll all play out.
Stacking wins. All right. What about you? What do you got?
So Mark Grody, who is the Bears reporter for The Score, he is at Mark Grody Sports. He tweeted out that Bears cornerback Jalen Johnson was asked on the Park and Spiegel show how he'd feel if the Bears gave him the franchise tag. His response: money is still good. He also talked about it in that same interview that about resetting the market, how he said he wasn't looking to do that now, but now the way his play has happened, which he got 4 picks now. He's been the top graded corner for Pro Football Focus pretty much the whole season. His numbers are outstanding. I think he may reset the market, but I think that tag's going to come into play. And like we talked about earlier, with Sweat signed up, now the Bears have that tag. So I think they may have to use the franchise tag on Jalen Johnson if they can't get a long-term deal done.
Yeah, they might have to do that just to make sure that he doesn't go into free agency, and then maybe you buy yourself more time to try to sign a long-term extension. We've seen that happen throughout the league. The Bears haven't necessarily had a lot of those circumstances, but it may be their turn to do that. You can criticize Ryan Poles if you want. We certainly have. It's not hindsight when you talk about it in the moment. Bears had 3 players that were potentially good targets to get an extension before the year. Cole Kmet did get an extension. Darnell Mooney and Jalen Johnson did not. We talked extensively about it. Jalen Johnson was the guy that we would have prioritized in those extension talks. Ryan Poles gave the money to Cole Kmet, who's played really well. Cole Kmet's had a fantastic year, right? You certainly had enough money to give a second extension out, but he chose to not do that. Gambled a little bit, right? Maybe he thought the guys that he drafted could replace and he wouldn't miss him, or maybe he was worried about the shoulder, or whatever it is, right? The thing is, Jalen Johnson's really good at football. And if you want to continue seeing this defense play at the level that it is, Jalen Johnson needs to be out on the football field doing that. Now, I would like to see him maybe talk to Charles Tillman and say, what do you do when you get the ball in your hands? Like what is it that you do? Because it doesn't seem quite as fluid. I know I mentioned that last time. Just doesn't seem quite as dynamic as it was when Peanut had the ball in his hand. But and he had the ball stripped out in this last game too. So yeah, you got to put that away. He got away with it. But
well, this is the first year he's got picks, so he's probably excited.
He doesn't know what he's doing.
He doesn't know what he's doing. Yeah.
What do I do with my hands? Well, back to football. That's what you should do.
2 hands on the ball.
Yeah. Again, Poles gambled and probably lost on this one, which it is what it is. It happens. I think there are enough tools in the toolbox here to make sure that Jalen Johnson is a Chicago Bear next year, and hopefully there's enough money in the coffers to make sure that Jalen Johnson is a football player for the Chicago Bears for a very long time, because I think he's that good. You want him here.
Yep, for sure.
All right, let's do stats. Caught up in a numbers game. What do you got? Let you go first.
My number is 0 this week.
Okay.
That is the number of targets for DJ Moore in the first half of that football game. And 0 is also the number of the wins the Bears have when DJ Moore has 8 or fewer targets. They're 0-6 when DJ Moore is targeted 8 or fewer times. So that makes the Bears 5-2 when DJ Moore has 9 or more targets. So in other words, when the team is running their offense through their number one receiver, good things tend to happen. Feed DJ Moore.
Yeah, he had 10 targets in this one, right? Like
Yeah,
finished
it
up.
ended up, yeah, finished good.
They did make a halftime adjustment there, so that's good. I I can't believe that you go through an entire half of football and not target your number one receiver. But this is, early on in the year, right? Like the Green Bay game, he really didn't get a lot of targets. Like there have been times where they just lose sight of what this personnel should be directing them towards. And this is not a defense that necessarily can take him away, as you see in the second half. It's not a defense that can necessarily take him away. It's not like there was some sort of, oh, they're taking away DJ Moore, so we had to go somewhere else. Like, no, this was just Luke Getsy calling football plays that did not feature, the best player that the Bears have. Yes, he got a couple of carries, which, were fun and interesting, but that's not necessarily, well, the touchdown was fun and
The
interesting.
touchdown was fun. Yeah.
I don't know that I like the 4th and 1 flip, but, maybe we'll get to that a little bit. But yeah, I like that number. I got a number that's on the opposite direction.
Okay.
Mine's 95% chance that the Carolina Panthers are going to end the football season giving the Chicago Bears the number 1 overall pick. 95%, 19 out of 20 times that the rest of the season is simulated. They're saying Carolina's given that top pick to the Chicago Bears. We are so close. We are
Yeah.
so close to clinching that number 1 pick. And I know a lot of people want to, well, I don't want to get rid of Justin. So, there was some talk let's just talk about this here. Let's
Yeah.
talk last week. Adam Hogue said something to the effect of, I just hope the Panthers win some games so that they fall out of the top 2 and we can stop talking about this. Something, I'm paraphrasing, something to that effect. That's an insane take.
Yeah.
The Bears, you want your favorite football team to have as many assets and the most valuable assets that they can, regardless of what they're going to end up using them for. You want them to have more and better assets. If at the end of the year they decide that that pick is best used by trading down and accumulating more picks like they did last year, then that's a good thing. Number 1 is worth more than any other pick. If they choose to move on because they like the quarterback that you have and you trust Ryan Poles, then that is a potentially really big and good decision for this franchise as well. So this is huge. And I don't know that there's anything like it where you traded out of the number 1 pick and then the next year you just got the number 1 pick again from the pick that you from the team that you traded. I mean, I guess you could just be bad again, but making a trade like this and then getting the number 1 pick back, incredible. Little bit of lucky, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's no way you could have seen this cascading around Frank Reich and David Tepper and everything that's happening in Carolina, but incredible trade, grabbing one of the most valuable pieces away from DJ Moore. We just talked about him, and just watching this thing implode.
Can you imagine if they didn't have DJ Moore part of this deal? Then I would imagine, Bryce Young has a security blanket as a receiver. He
Right.
probably isn't as awful as he has been this year. I mean, they've had some issues obviously with that offense, but you put a number 1 receiver on that team, they're winning a couple games.
Yep.
So the fact that Poles took that away, I wonder if that went into his thinking. I want to get your best offensive weapon. I mean, the Bears needed one for sure, but I wonder if that also was part of the thinking was, let me go ahead and take your best guy, leave your offense even crappier than it is, and you're going to give us that number 1 pick.
Yeah, and we've talked about this a couple times, and I just want to I saw some back and forth on Twitter, no, that it was always DJ Moore. Poles was only going to take DJ Moore, and then from the Panthers, no, it was always DJ. BS. There were 3 offers on the table. There, one of them had Brian Burns, one of them had Brown, one of them had DJ Moore, and Poles got to pick. There was negotiations on all these. There's no way that they only talked about DJ Moore. No way, right? And so I just think that Poles made the right choice. I think that's really what it comes down to. But when it sounds a lot better to the player, to DJ Moore, hey man, you were it. We weren't even talking about anybody else. We wanted you. That's better for the Bears to tell DJ Moore. And then on the flip of that, if you're the Carolina Panthers, and Brian Burns is sitting there and like, hey man, no. Like we weren't even going to consider that. Like that wasn't even, no way were we going to trade you. Right. So like, behind closed doors, I can guarantee you there was 3 different offers. But anyway,
Well, it's all part of
95%.
the it's all part of the negotiation. I mean,
Right. Of
if you're
course.
going after him, I mean, I'm sure Ryan Poles, he may have had DJ Morris as number one guy. That could have been what he wanted,
Right.
but there's other guys talked about, and there was a couple reports, like I said, to talk about 3. There may have been more than 3. There may have been other guys that the Panthers tried to put in there as a sweetener to kind of keep their guy. But outstanding trade, and what the Bears got for that number 1 pick, if he moves this number 1 pick, it's going to blow that away.
Could be even more.
Yeah,
Is that the prospects are rated higher like
yeah.
that, and that's how that works, right? I mean, like these guys are really well sought after, and just look around the league and see all of the different names that you see at starting quarterback this this weekend. It's there's guys I don't even know who they are. Like I thought it was a typo on one of them. I was like, I don't know who is that. I don't even know who that is. Like we are starting quarterbacks that like DeVito, you kept calling him Danny
Danny
DeVito,
DeVito, yeah.
right? Like I mean, we don't even know the guy's first names. Like
Nick
this is
Mullins just got the job
well, I mean, come
from
on,
the Vikings, and
of course Nick Mullins. I mean,
Joe
that's
Flacco,
Joe
the corpse,
Flacco's back.
38-year-old Joe Flacco is back. He's starting for the Browns now. So yeah, there's some odd quarterback choices where teams are going to want to move up. If the Bears decide that it's Fields is their guy, if that's what they decide to do, they're going to get a haul for number 1 overall.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's talk about the guy that they're going to have to decide on here, and that's Justin Fields. And our Fields report: 19 of 33, 223 yards, 1 touchdown, which was kind of incredible. No interceptions. Awesome. 3 sacks for 29 yards, which for Fields is kind of an
Decent,
okay
yeah.
day. 12 runs for 58 yards and a touchdown. So filled up the stat sheet pretty much everywhere, with the exception of interceptions, which is where you do not want him to fill up the stat sheet. Overall, like a good game, right? Like this was a good game, limited the turnovers, a couple of like nice throws, a couple of creative moments, right? Like where he's breaking out and he's getting some of those big runs. But did this wow you? Was this one of these like, oh yeah, he's turned a corner, or was this like yeah, this was good?
It was a good game. I mean, he missed a couple layups, and he even talked about it. That there's some plays he'd like to have back, and a couple of out routes. I think 2 might have been to Darnell Mooney. I think there might have been one to I forget who it was, but yeah, there were some plays that if he hits those layups, this is even a bigger win for the Bears. And but the plays he did make, like you said, for the 4th down play to DJ Moore, beautiful shot. The touchdown run was outstanding, and he had a couple of scrambles early. We talked about just he does some outstanding stuff, and if you look at his spray chart, his against the Vikings, it was ridiculous. All those it's like, what are we doing here? This is a little more accustomed what Justin Fields wants to do. He pushed the ball downfield a couple times. He didn't do a lot. I mean, they were still kind of playing kind of close to the vest with some of their play calls, but overall, it was a good game. Is it enough to sway the franchise? Oh, that's it. I don't think one game, regardless, if he would have had like 500 yards passing, I don't think one game sways this franchise. They're going to evaluate this up to the end. They're going to make all decisions possible. It may go beyond the season. They may see what happens because, like we said earlier, who knows? I mean, they may get blown away by an offer to go up to number 1. Who knows what'll happen? And maybe they roll the dice and say, well, Fields has shown enough, but then that goes into, if you keep Fields, are you keeping Flus, or you're keeping Getsy? What are we doing here as a franchise? It's just a lot of questions have to be answered here in the next few games.
Right, but you don't have to make those decisions yet.
Nope.
So
Yeah.
that's good. And if you're Justin Fields, you have a future in this league, whether or not it's with
Yeah,
Chicago
for
or
sure.
not. Like that's let me just say that. But you've got Cleveland, who had a pretty ferocious defense early on in the year. They have not been playing all that well lately. That's an interesting opportunity. You've got the Cardinals, who are not a very good football team, a little bit more competitive lately. You've got the Falcons, who I think their defense actually isn't too bad, but they're they're an interesting team, and they could be actually an interesting trade target for Justin Fields. if the Bears do choose to move him. And then you've got the Packers in the last week. There's some defenses there that you could take advantage of, and you could put up some numbers and really showcase what you're able to do there. So it'll be interesting to see what he does in the last month. Again, you have 2.5 years of information. You should be able to make a pretty good decision, but you don't have to make a final decision yet. So that's really what it comes down to. All right. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. Other side of this, we'll do everybody's favorite segment, the Three Bears. Stick with us. All right, Lester, let's talk Three Bears: hot bowl of porridge, cold bowl of porridge, and just right. A few places to go. I'm going to let you kick us off with the hot bowl, and I imagine that there's an easy candidate here.
Yeah, I saved Montez Sweat for you on the Trench Tribute, so I'm going to take Jaquan Brisker here for the hot bowl. 17 tackles, 2 pass defended, 1 forced fumble all over the field. The coach's tape, according to Flu, said they had him with 18 tackles, so maybe there'll be a change there at some point. But yeah, he looked good. He got dinged up a little bit early. And of course, how Bears Twitter does. They were all over it. Oh, here we go again. Brisker hurt again. It's like, come on, give me a break here. He had a heck of a game. So who else are you going to go with but Brisker?
I think that's the obvious choice. I think he
Yeah,
definitely gets it. And with this defense playing as well as it is, and they've played pretty well against Jared Goff. Now, again, a few weeks ago they let that comeback happen, but okay. Overall, they've taken the ball away a lot from that Lions offense which was playing good football coming into those games. And he had the best of that. For me, I figured that was the obvious one, so I'm just going to focus on the 4th and 13 touchdown.
yeah, nice.
So, in the spirit of hot bowl of porridge, more than you expect, right? So the
Yeah,
Bears line up on 4th and 13 to take a delay of game to punt the ball back to the Lions. This is a tie football game at this point. And some reason, somehow, Mr. All-Star himself, Aiden Hutchinson, jumps off sides. And so let's give Lucas Patrick some credit, because centers don't always see it. Like,
yeah,
you'll see guys jump off and the center just kind of doesn't do anything. Like that is the play. The play is, if you see movement, snap it. But he does the smart thing. He snaps it, right? Like, there's a little bit of risk there. Like, if a guy like gets back, or if a guy doesn't really, they don't call it, like, that's on you. Like, the center's going to get in some trouble, right? So he sees it, he snaps it. So that's my first kudos is to him. Secondly, is like everybody knowing what to do. And DJ Moore just takes off. I mean, what are we doing? We're letting DJ Moore. We're covering him 1-on-1
one on
on
one. Yeah, like
4th and
what are you
13.
doing?
What are we doing? And Fields just rips it, right? He just
Yeah,
hits the strike. I mean, you could very easily not. There's no. It's a 5-yard penalty, so whatever. Like, there's nothing lost there, right? But still, at that point, when you see the flag and then it's a free play, he rips it and it's a touchdown. That was the game. I mean, that was the play of the game,
yeah,
and it could be one of the best plays that we have seen in the Justin Fields era. I mean, relative to these like amazing touchdown runs and some of the other great things that he's done. This was great in a huge moment in a tie game where you were going to give it back. You were just going to take a delay of game so that you could have an easier punt and give the ball back, and you get a touchdown out of it. That's a hot bowl of porridge.
well, stuff like this that clearly shows growth. I mean, that's growth from your offense, from your quarterback. The fact the Bears, they didn't get conservative. I mean, that shows growth. Like the Bears jumped out with the lead and then they gave it up going to the halftime. And, I'm like, oh, here we go again. The Bears did it
Right.
again. That's what we all assumed. And, then they come out and, they didn't. They shut the Lions out in the second half. So, yeah, this team is growing. It's like I said, they're going to give a lot of questions what you do with the quarterback, with the head coach, even with the offensive coordinator. You got to figure what are they going to do. But yeah, that was a nice play. And I don't know if you caught up Braxton Jones talking about it in the locker room. I retweeted that earlier today. He was talking about him and Tevin Jenkins. During that play, they were doing a lot of the stuff. Pre-snap. Okay, I got this guy. You got this guy. They're really selling it to the Lions that they were going to snap the ball. So you like to see when the whole team is on the same page, and it's kind of fun to see that they actually have grown as an offense.
That's one I think that they just laugh about together,
Yeah,
like on the sidelines and in the locker room. Like, yeah, can you believe that that just happened? Like,
yeah.
that's incredible. I mean, that is making chicken salad out of chicken feathers. Not
Yes,
the way I learned that
exactly.
phrase. Um, incredible, incredible. Let's flip it around. Cold bowl porridge. What do you got?
I'm going to go with defensive end Rasheem Green. He
Who?
hey, exactly. He had 20 snaps, zero stats. He's kind of playing the role of Al Muhammad this year for the Bears. But it wasn't just that he had no stats. It was just he looked like he was kind of out of place in a few times. A few times he kind of was just kind of chasing guys around. He's just not the athlete. He doesn't have the juice to kind of make plays. And he's had a couple moments this year where you're like, okay, he's a nice veteran presence. He's fine, but ultimately you want to have a little better upgrade there. So I'm starting to wonder, are they going to maybe go back to Dominique Robinson, who has been inactive here for the last month, as they go down the stretch? Maybe they try and see if he can kind of take some of those reps and from Rasheem Green, because Green's not going to be on this team next year. He's probably for sure going to be gone as on a 1 year deal. So maybe Robinson will get a chance to play a handful of snaps here as the fourth edge.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to add to the guy that just looks invisible on the field. We should come up with an award where like the defensive player that just fills up plays but doesn't fill up the stat sheet. I mean,
Yeah.
just I don't know what that award's going to be called. It should actually just be called the Al Muhammad Award. But all right, for me, I've got just some random ones.
That's so mean spirited of you. I'm not used to that.
Well, he was bad.
He was bad.
I'm not, generally if they wear navy and orange, I'm going to cheer for them. But there's been a few guys over the years that, particularly guys that are signed from
Yeah.
another team. Like if they're drafted, like I'm probably not ever going to like cheer against. Like I'm not going to be negative to them. There's one exception that of a guy that I really didn't like that was drafted very early on, but uh it's like these free agents that come in or trades that come in that of players I don't like Nick Foles. I could never get behind that. Like that kind of stuff's garbage. But
You were never a fan of Foles.
no, I really I never hit it either.
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to just lean in. All right, so I've got some random stuff. So first half usage of DJ Moore in the passing game. That's a cold bowl of porridge. That goes to Luke Getzey for not dialing up. Number two, a cold bowl of porridge goes to Deontay Foreman trying to hurdle.
Oh, geez.
My guy, you are angry run guy. You are run them over. You are not hurdle guy. Okay. Don't do that again. That's a cold bowl of porridge to that hurdle. And then we need to give a cold bowl of porridge out to Justin Fields trying to flip the ball away when he's going down. That's something's gonna happen there.
Yeah.
I don't know why that emerged in his game. I don't know where that came from, but I'm not about it. Like that needs to stop. That gets a cold bowl of porridge for me.
Yeah. I mean, he's trying to avoid the sack, which you're like, okay, that's good. Kudos to you for being aware that you want to get the ball out of your hands. But we've talked about it. At some point, when the play is essentially over, you're going down. If it's not a clean way to get rid of it, that's just not that's not good.
Cover it up, go to the ground, take it.
Yeah,
It is what
take
it
it.
is.
Yeah.
Just right. What do you got?
Just right. It's funny because I'm going through the tape and watching the game, right, and I have Rasheem Green with his 20 snaps, no stats. This guy played 31 snaps and also had zero stats in the whole game. But Andrew Billings,
Hmm.
defensive tackle for the Bears, this guy, he's a presence on the field. He didn't get any tackles this week, but he gets pressure up the middle. He clogs up lanes. He commands double teams when it happens. I mean, the Bears, they extended his contract a few weeks back because he's just been that dude for the Bears. And I got to go Andrew Billings. He's playing good football for the Chicago Bears, and he is definitely a part of this franchise going forward.
I agree. I mean, I really like Andrew. I mean, it's just there's
Yeah.
something about a giant human being
Yes.
trying to squeeze themselves into a football jersey, like that. Just warms the heart of Bears fans, right? Like they're going back as far as Fridge, and I'm sure even further back, just like defensive tackles in Chicago. There's something about a guy that you think can eat like 15 Polish sausages that you're like, that's my guy. I like that guy, right?
Yeah.
Andrew Billings just fits in that mold. Big mold, but he fits in that mold. I'm going to go Cole Kmet. We talked about him earlier. This is a 5-catch, 66-yard game, but had a giant 41-yard gainer, and then a couple of other just like tough catches. Right, pulled one down over Anzalone, like just a nice, solid game from Cole Kmet. Didn't splash in the end zone, or this isn't like a end zone call out or anything like that. It's just a nice, solid game from the tight end.
He had that one catch where it was kind of on the shoulder and he went down. And if you notice, as soon as the play ended, he went to the huddle quickly. He's like, hey, let's get the ball, let's get going quick, because he wasn't sure if he caught it because it was such a weird play where he kind of fell to the ground. He did. He caught the ball. That they ended up the Lions threw a challenge flag. They were denied and they lost their timeout, which is obviously good if you're in a close game. And yeah, Cole Kmet, there's some guys in our circle that they really have a hard time with Cole Kmet because, and then this game you had him doing good, you had Brisker doing good, you had Tremaine Edmonds doing good. All these guys that people that we talked to quite a bit are, oh, these guys stink. Oh man, they're coming around and playing pretty good football, and so this must have been a tough game for some of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, we've told the story many times. When we went to camp, they're featuring Cole Kmet. Now, I don't know that you want to feature him, but as a secondary
Yeah,
player, like he's a good football player. So
no more screens to Cole Kmet.
no more screens.
Yeah,
Get him moving, right? Get that body moving. You want the Bowser player moving. So Cole Kmet gets the just right for me. Anything that you want to talk about before we close out the podcast? Went through that a little faster than we normally do, but
oh man, we did
yeah,
nice. That was
we
good.
kind of zoomed through. I think we're just excited. Back
We're
to back
happy.
victories.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
happy. Yeah.
yeah, we're not dwelling on anything. So, anything that you want to talk about before we get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, there's like I said, the talk of Bears Nation now is has the team turned a corner? Is Eberflus back? I mean, we were pretty sure a few weeks back that Flus is definitely gone, but this was a signature win for him and for the team. And it's like if Flus has done enough, and now there's still 4 games, and they could blow it again. But you know, Browns, if you pull that off, that's an upset. Then you got a couple stinky teams, and then of course you got the Packers to finish off the season. So I can see, as much as I thought it was for sure going to be a change, now I'm starting to think that there's a chance that Flu stays. And if Flu stays, why would you draft a quarterback? Because that's the same thing you did with Fields. It's the same thing you did with Mitch. If you're not going to line them up, you may as well just run it all back.
It would be kind of amazing if that's what ends up happening,
Yeah.
particularly where this team was at just a few weeks ago.
Yep.
Uh, I still don't believe in Eberflus as a head coach. Like I have not been changed and convinced otherwise. I still think that you need to take in everything that he's done. Right?
Yep.
We talked about, we got to evaluate everything. Justin Fields. I think you have to take in everything in the Eberflus era. I understand that they were trying to be bad last year, but they underperformed that bad roster last year. I believe they've underperformed this roster. I know
Oh,
things have
this
looked
year for sure. Yeah.
better lately, but again, why did it take so long to spin up? Why were so many really bad decisions on display in September? And, I don't know about you, but when I took a class in college, if I failed my first test, they didn't just throw it out at the end and then just calculate my grade based on the test that I took through the rest of the semester. They counted that one, right? So at some level, you have to count those 4 games that started the year. You have to count the collapse against Detroit. They have to count the collapse against the Broncos, right? Like these things all matter. The decisions that you made early on in the year to not feature your best players on offense, they're getting more creative on defense. They're doing the things that we've
Yeah.
been asking them to do. Why did it take so long? Like these guys are still, they're the same guys. Like there's talent that has been there the whole year. Yes, Montez Sweat's here, and I joked a little bit about him being defensive player of the year by elevating 2 different squads. But the reality is part of why the Bears have been improving is that they've been a lot more interesting in the looks that they've been giving opposing offenses. They've been playing more creative defense. Where the hell was that in September?
Yeah.
Like we were begging for that. Like they came out and played the most boring base coverages against the Packers and let Jordan Love carve them up, right? So I think all of that has to go into account. Not to mention the 2 coaches that have been let go and all the other stuff that's happened. And so I'm just not convinced on Eberflus, but there's certainly a window of opportunity here that we couldn't have imagined a few weeks ago.
Such a weird season this whole season has been. I mean, we predicted playoffs for
Yep.
this team, and if you go back and those, like you said, those two historic meltdowns don't happen, this team is squarely in the playoff race right now, and it's just been such a strange season for Bears fans. We want Justin Fields to be the guy. He may prove to be the guy, but the Bears still may decide to move on just because of the finances and what's going on. But we kind of talked a little bit on the pre-show, right before we hit live, and Flu still has his locker room. But more importantly, so does Fields. If you move on from Fields, that's going to hurt this locker room. So a lot of choices, man. Ryan Poles, he's done a pretty good job here in year two, but he's got a lot of tough decisions coming up here.
Yeah, when we were talking about it before we hit on the YouTube, I'll just kind of set it a little bit up here. Is that there was a video that came out from the locker room after the win against Minnesota, and it was Flus talking, and it just felt like the energy in the locker room was like, yeah, like whatever, like it was fine, and then Fields got up and was like, "Hey man, I'm sorry about making that mistake. Thank you guys for picking me up." Like, and everybody was like, "No, like you're our dude." Like the energy just seemed to really rise up with Fields. Now it's probably a little different, right? It's your coach versus your quarterback, but I think there's a lot of teams that like play for their head coach where they're really into it when the coach talks. And it didn't necessarily feel like that, but then when Fields talked, it was everybody was in, right? So who has the team? Right?
Yeah.
Is it Flus or is it Fields? And if it's Fields more than Flus, or it could be both, could be whatever. But if you get rid of Fields but you keep Flus, like how does that
Yeah.
feel for a lot of these guys? Are they're gonna go along with that? DJ Moore had the comments not that long ago that like, wait, Justin's on the hot seat. Like that's
Yeah.
news to me. Like, what are you talking about? He's been playing pretty good. Like, what's that all about, right? So it's a really interesting and big decision that's coming up.
Yeah, at this point, I have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, I'm just enjoying my favorite football team win there a couple games in a row. So that's all I can do now, and it'll all play out when it plays out. And Carolina's given them that first overall pick, so they will have plenty of options.
Bears got a chance to go 500 in the division.
Oh man,
How about that?
jeez, never would have saw that.
All right. How about we end on that note? We'll get out of here. We will be back for next Monday as we'll talk about the game against the Cleveland Browns. For those of you that are going to Cleveland, be nice. Till next week. Bear down. I just remember Schweikert telling us stories about going to Cleveland. They don't seem like the nicest fans.
Yeah, they're pretty wild, right? They're
Like,
known for that.
it's not quite Eagles, but like I would, yeah. I don't know that I'd want. If I go to a Browns game, I don't know that I'd want to wear opposing. I just you can see the videos, you see like all this stuff happen. Like I don't need to get into it. You know, I saw this beforehand. So Axel's our guy in where's he at? Sweden?
Sweden, yeah.
So he wanted to know why Fields isn't getting calls. And I don't know, man. You tell me, Lester. Like, what is it about Justin Fields where refs just seem to just be like, "Nope, you're fine. You're not going to get that call." It's the Cam Newton treatment is really what
Yeah.
it is.
Running quarterbacks just tend to they don't get that. I kind of liken it to where Shaquille O'Neal in basketball, he would get fouled all the time, and they just
Hack-a-Shaq.
never would call Hack-a-Shaq, but he would get, just pounded. And they're like, oh, he can take it. That's just what he is. So like I think with running quarterbacks, they're like, well, he's running, but once they leave the pocket, that they're not a running back. I mean, they have those rules to protect them, and we saw the first play of the game, he kind of went down and got popped, and some of it was so bang bang. You're like, well, I can see why the ref wouldn't throw it there, but sometimes you're just like, what are they doing here? How do they miss it so badly like
Yeah,
that?
especially the late hits.
Yeah,
Like that's the stuff that I don't really understand. Sometimes the stuff to the helmet, like you can see that going both ways. Like Bears have gotten away with stuff too. Like it's hard. It's hard. But Cornelius wants to let us know that Montez Sweat has reached double-digit sacks for the first time in his career. I mean, he's a good football player. We were excited about him. Not, nothing about the football player we didn't like, particularly since he's good at he's a really well-rounded defensive end, right? He's good at everything. Um, it was just there wasn't an extension in place when they traded him, and it was a little nerve-wracking until that got done. And you paid full freight like
Yeah,
those analytics guys that Lester was kind of teasing on Twitter here today. Like, they're always going to just go to their spreadsheet, and their
yeah,
spreadsheet's going to tell them like this is, they want the capital, the draft capital, because but what I don't understand with analytics guys, and I think I know enough math to operate and live in that world, but I think they make some assumptions that the draft capital always turns out like they have like best case scenario for the draft capital. But there's such a hit and miss rate with
yeah,
the draft that I just there's a pretty good history of trading draft capital for established, but that are good players. And there's been some really good teams that have done that. And at some point you just say, I don't want to take the chance. I
yeah,
don't want to take the chance on a developmental guy. I don't want to use this higher pick on that position. Right. So I'm going to use this here. I think this is a good opportunity for me to bring in a player that I think fits in our system. That's a good football player that plays, the way we want to play, whatever. They did that, and he's showing it. Have you ever seen a trade work so well so quickly? For This is a second round pick. The Mac trade was gigantic, and it worked beautifully from the first game. But that was 2 firsts, right?
yeah.
This is a second round pick, even if it's a high second round pick. I mean, this guy's coming in and has elevated the entire defense.
Well, I think that's a big thing you mentioned is there's no guarantees in the draft. I mean, even these top quarterbacks, there's no guarantee they're going to pan out. So there's a lot to think about here. But the trade with Sweat, though, it's like they're criticizing it because they're looking at, like you said, the draft, looking at because of the cap ramifications. But Ryan Poles has this cap in a pretty good place where he can afford to make this move. It made sense for the franchise to make this move at the time, and they got the deal done. It's like at the time the criticism was, well, like even us, even me, I said it too. Well, there's no deal in place. So but then the deal got done. Okay, well then that's out the window. Let's not change the narrative to support my anger at the deal. No, it's things
Right.
change. Let's let it happen. Let's let it play out. Sweat came in. Sweat is fit in great. He has been the multiplier the Bears want him to be. He's at 10 sacks for the first time in his career. A lot of good football left. The Bears defense looks really good right now. And now you don't have to spend one of your top picks, at edge if you don't want to. I think they still could because they're going to lose probably Yannick Ngakoue. But again, having Sweat in place, you have options. He's under contract for 4 years. It's hindsight tells you this is a very good move for the Bears. And then you talk about what other trade worked out good. The Roquan deal for the Ravens, that worked out for them pretty good. I mean, that was a midseason trade. They traded for an inside linebacker. They traded that. Come on, what are they doing there?
Right. Well, I meant for the Bears, but
Oh,
yes, yeah,
I know, I know.
that's a good example for the other team.
Yeah.
And
It works out.
honestly, we called that at the time. We said this is
Yeah,
the perfect place for Roquan. This
yeah,
is best for Roquan. This is good for the Bears because if they weren't going to sign him, if they felt like they got a good premium pick out of it, and it's great for the Ravens because it's the exact guy that they need to unlock their defense. So
yeah,
yes, absolutely. That's what trades are supposed to do. They're supposed to
yeah,
benefit both parties.
yeah,
This whole idea of they won the trade, that team won. No, that's not real. Rarely is that the case where you have to pit them against each other. It's did they a good trade makes both teams better. That's why
yeah.
countries trade with each other, right? That is what trade is about, is that you lift both parties. But anyway, there's my I skipped that. Number one Bears fan says Marvin Harrison Jr., please. So even if it's not Marvin Harrison Jr., I think one of these talented wide receivers in the first round is definitely on the table, even if the Bears go down the road of using that first pick on Caleb Williams or Drake May. That second pick that the Bears would have would likely be in the area where you could see them using it on one of these wide receivers.
Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 really good receivers in this draft. Yeah, and Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he'd be outstanding in Chicago. I've seen some people talk about you taking 1 overall. Yeah, no, I
Nope.
don't think you take a receiver 1 overall, especially in the way this draft lines up. If there wasn't 2 quarterbacks that teams are going to be salivating over coming to get,
Right.
yeah, sure, take the guy on your board who could be your number 1 player. But yeah, if you get 1 overall, I think you're trading back. And then if you
Yep.
trade back, you play it smart. Maybe you still get Marvin Harrison Jr.
Right. Or you trade back too far that he's already gone, and you've got 3 other guys that people really like, and you try to
Yep.
work him in and fit him in with what works best with what you already have in DJ Moore, right? Like, so if you can play some complementary, build a room that complements each other. Chris is upset that we, aren't showering love on Danny DeVito's long lost cousin Tommy DeVito, who went to Illinois, where quarterbacks play unlike some adjacent states. So that is a shot at the University of Iowa
I
Hawkeyes,
knew it was coming. Yeah.
who do not know how to play offensive football, which is true. That is a true statement. They are not.
Did you
good at
see
that.
the punter highlights they had? I
Dude,
saw the Iowa Hawkeyes put out a great video on their punter.
only the Hawkeyes would spend all the time to create punter highlights.
Yeah.
It's amazing. What grade would you give Getsy for yesterday's game plan?
It was much better than against the Vikings. I'll give him that. I mean, Getsy's so weird because I like where he comes from. I like his schooling. I like the Moorhead stuff. I like the McCarthy stuff. I like the Shanahan stuff. I don't know. It's like he's still struggling to find out who he is as a play caller. He struggles to kind of do what's best for his offense, but just based on yesterday's game, it's above average. I mean, you got to go a game plan. You got to go C plus, B minus, somewhere in that range. I thought it was. I thought there were some good things out of Getsy.
There was a little bit. I mean, again,
The
targeting
DJ Moore
in the
thing,
first half is really bad.
that brings it down. Yeah,
That's really bad. There was some creative stuff, obviously, like that play with the run, the touchdown run was really creative because if you go back and watch that play, for those of you that have NFL Plus, or even if you have the ability to watch all 22 or whatever, go back and watch that play and watch the Lions middle linebacker Jack Campbell, Hawkeye. Watch him on that play. Dude is frozen. He has no clue what's happening. Like, you see him do a shuffle, and then all of a sudden, oh crap. And by that time he has no chance at an angle at Moore. Like that creative with Fields coming back the other way absolutely took him out of the play, which created a numbers advantage and let more and all the blocking was great on that play too. Like, give all the love, but like that design, that little eye candy there really made the play. It's incredible. That's great, right? So sometimes those little plays, and you call them at the right time and they're executed well, that's good stuff. Those give you some points. But then there's sequences like, hey, it's 3rd and 1, we're in plus territory, we're gonna run a Justin Fields run from shotgun, right? Don't love that. Oh, now it's 4th and 1. Well, we're gonna do a little flip to DJ Moore. Like, really don't love that, right? So there's some good stuff and there's some bad stuff, and that's kind of the story with Luke Getsy.
Yeah, I was doing the game yesterday on the Pro Sports Fan app, and I talked about that. It was almost like one of those plays where we're talking about the flip to DJ Moore. It's almost like Getsy had that in his holster, and he's like, "Yeah, as soon as we get a chance, we're going to run this play." But that wasn't the time for it. That was like 4th in a long. It wasn't like inches. If it was inches, fine, because then maybe the Lions are packed in. But the Lions are ready for it. I mean, they were in there. They had their guys, their big guys on the inside, but they were waiting for that flip to DJ Moore, and it just shut it down.
Eric says that Foreman pulled off the hurdle earlier this year. I don't care. Care. He's big. Run through people like that. He's the power back. I don't want him. No, that was bad. It was ugly. That's what happens, man. And a lot of those defenders don't want to be posterized. Like that's, I mean, it's just like basketball. They don't want to be on the poster, right? And so a guy hurdles, they'll bring up their helmet and they'll hit you where you don't want to be hit.
There was a play.
Bad idea.
There was a play earlier a few games ago where Foreman tried that before he was missed games injury. where he tried to hurdle someone and someone came up and it looked like, man, I think he hurt his groin, like his leg kind of stretched awkwardly. So, yeah, I mean, it works for some guys, but no, I want to see Foreman use his 225 and run people over.
This is a specific question for you. It says, any chance we can get further review on one of the sacks he gave to Braxton? Tra la la block?
There was a tra la la block. I remember this early in the season, and I'm sure I gave it to Braxton Jones at the play. He just did something very odd, but like you're saying, some of the blocking schemes. Now that I've had a chance to kind of see them more, very strange blocking schemes from. I don't know if that's a Getsy thing. I don't know if that's the Chris Morgan O line guy. I don't know if it's some of the old linemen going into business on their own, but there have just been some weird things that the Bears do where I don't understand it from a schematic standpoint, what they're trying to do. And I'm not the only one. I've talked to people and same thing. It's like just some weird things the Bears do. So, but as far as Braxton Jones go, like I said at the top, he's had a great year. I think he is definitely going to be the guy moving forward at left tackle.
I'm gonna end. I think I'm gonna end on this one. Any Pro Bowlers on this
Oh,
team? It's tough. It's tough with football teams with bad records because one, it's a way to really reward teams with good records. That's a lot of Pro Bowls
yeah.
is all about. And years Bears don't get Pro Bowlers at all, right? And sometimes they deserve them. And so like Pro Bowl is tough. It's not, to me, it's not like a great reflection. So the guys are that you think are at least deserving of consideration, what would you say?
You got to go with TJ Edwards. I think he's in line for his first Pro Bowl nod here. He's just his tackle. I don't think he's quite in line for the Bears' overall tackle record, but he's still in the ballpark and he's still putting up there and he's turnovers. I think he had a fumble recovery in his last game, so he'll have the full stat sheet to kind of show. Plus, his play on the field's been good. And then I think offense, you got to go DJ Moore. I mean, I'm not sure how the other receivers stack up, but just what he's meant to this offense, I think it's going to get a lot of votes. And of course, the Pro Bowl is it's a third vote. It's fans, it's coaches, it's players. So he'll get a lot of votes. And I think those two guys are the two guys that come to mind right away. But other than that, I think maybe Tevin Jenkins may have an outside shot, but it's tough with guards. That becomes more of a popularity contest because the average fan is not really breaking down guard play.
Yeah, not a lot of fans. Period. Breaking
Yeah,
down guards. I'd say Jalen is the guy for me that
yeah, yeah. That's another one.
should be the guy that leads. I mean, there's enough chatter around league circles and around Twitter that puts Jalen in these cornerback rankings that are pretty high. He's just not getting the splash plays like Deron Bland, the guy that's got all the pick sixes for the Cowboys and all that. But I could see Jalen getting a nod here, but we'll see. It's tough. It's tough when your team doesn't have a very good record, but I think those are the guys that have the best chance. I hope Moore makes it. Moore's. I mean, CD Lamb and AJ Brown are probably the guys that would be the top two vote getters in the NFC. They still do conferences, right? They didn't like do away with conferences.
I
Like
think
I
it's
feel like
the
one
conferences.
year they kind of like didn't
Yeah.
do that, or maybe I don't know. Anyway, um, that's kind of what I'm thinking is CD and AJ would be probably your top two vote getters, and they're NFC East teams. Those teams have huge followings too. And then I think DJ Moore after that is he'd probably be the next guy in that mix for the NFC. So hopefully hopefully that happens. That'd be great.
Like I got. What about tight end Cole Kmet in the NFC? I haven't looked at the numbers lately, but the last I checked, he was up among the league leaders in the conference in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. I mean, that would be that would really piss off some fans.
Uh, yeah, there's that would be awesome. Cornelius says that CD is overrated. That is, I do not agree with that.
He's
That
a
is not
pretty
true.
good football player.
He's a good football player. That's probably pretty true. Definitely Kittle. Laporta's having a heck of a year.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. We'll see. So, all right. I think that's it for us. About an hour. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. We'll be back next week. Got the Browns, got the Cardinals, got the Falcons, and then of course we got the Packers. We're almost at the end of this thing. We're going to know a lot more about this team and this team's future. But there's still a chance here. There's still a chance if they run the table. The Bears could sneak into the playoffs. Unbelievable, given where this team was at a few weeks ago. So, anything else? Final words?
We're good. Let's get the hell out of here.
All right, man.